Us here at the Charles M. Schulz Museum. Is there anyone who's at the museum for the first time today? Wow. Thank you. I really hope you find time, either you found time before this or you make time after to check out our exhibitions. Your ticket to this event does include museum admission. I'm also wondering if there's anyone here from outside of the Greater Bay Area. Ooh, okay. Anyone from outside of California? All right. Thank you again for joining us. We're really excited to have an amazing event today. We are not recording it, so this is in your memories and experience forever, only for you. And after the talk, everyone will step outside into our great hall for a book signing. So we do have books for sale at Copperfield's table and in our gift shop. So I encourage you, perhaps if you have a question that you don't get to ask during the live event, that you please join us at the book signing table where you'll get to chat with our amazing panelists. But right now, I'm really excited to introduce Jean Schulz.
Yay!
Peanuts creator, Charles M. Schulz. She is also the founding board president of the Charles M. Schulz Museum and Research Center and played a major role in its creation. She is also a philanthropist and is active on the board of Canine Companions for Independence. She lives a very active life, holds a pilot's license, and still finds time for regular tennis games. We're also very honored to have with us Dave Eggers.
Yay!
He also wanting to be a cartoonist and an illustrator, and Charles Schulz was one of his favorite cartoonists. Eggers was a cartoonist for his college newspaper, then ran a weekly cartoon in SF Weekly in San Francisco for 5 years. He is also a best-selling author whose works include A Hologram for the King, a 2012 National Book Award finalist, and What is the What, a 2006 National Book Critics Circle Award finalist, among many other titles. He is the founder of McSweeney's, an independent publishing company based in San Francisco, co-founder of 826 National, a network of 8 tutoring centers nationwide, and Scholar Match, a nonprofit organization that connects students with resources, schools, and donors to make college possible. He is currently working on a new art education center at Pier 29 in San Francisco, which will celebrate a range of art forms, including comics. And last but definitely not least, our moderator, Benjamin L. Clark, the world's luckiest fan of cartoonist Charles Schulz, as the curator here at the Charles M. Schulz Museum and Research Center. Clark has worked in museums since 2003 and currently leads the team responsible for preserving and interpreting Schulz's legacy here at the Schulz Museum and around the globe. He is the co-author of the Eisner Award-winning book, Charles M. Schulz, The Art and Life of the Peanuts Creator in 100 Objects, and a contributor to the newest book, The Essential Peanuts, both of which are for sale in our gift shop. So please join me with another round of applause.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. So, Jeannie, I'll be sharing some slides and some comics here for everyone. But tell me, what is one of your favorite memories or even reflections about Sparky working every day on Peanuts?
Well, it's hard to go back now and pretend that I didn't know that.
Right.
But that was what I met Sparky when he was drawing upstairs in the ice arena. And so I knew that he was up there drawing all the time. Then he moved into the studio down the street. And I don't know, I can't remember what it was like to discover that that's what I cared about.
Sure. So, Jeannie, you and I and Dave, we were talking just a little bit ago about how, as writers, how a story might end. We might not know when we begin. Sparky was that way. You mentioned that there's a great story beginning with this strip. One day the sun comes up and it looks like a baseball.
Hey.
Let's talk about that.
Well, I was thinking when we were going to talk to a novelist, I thought, a novelist, I understand, plans out the book, knows where it's going to go and how it's going to end. Sparky only knew today what those 4 squares were going to be. And I remember him telling me, I had this storyline going and I couldn't figure out how to end it. And the storyline was what we have interpreted as him reflecting on being in the Army and how he went into the Army as, he said, a know-nothing kid, and he came out as the squad leader of a 12-man squad, so he was obviously proud of himself. That transition happened down in Camp Campbell, Kentucky, but for Charlie Brown, it happened when he saw the baseball, the sun appear as a baseball. I'm gonna not try to drag this out as long as the strip went on. And everything he looked at, the ice cream cone looked like a baseball. Everything looked like a baseball. He went to Lucy and asked her what he should do. He went to his pediatrician and asked him what he should do. And eventually he went to camp. He was scheduled to go to camp, so he put a sack over his head. And with the sack on his head, he became elected as the camp leader of the cabin. And they began to say, oh, and then there was this, you can read that.
Mm-hmm. So this is a great one. So here I am on a bus going to camp, which is great for all of us who didn't see the 2 strips earlier. And if you're reading in the paper in 1973. And for someone who hates going to camp, I sure spend a lot of time there. Maybe I went to the wrong doctor. Every summer he drags his family off on a 5-week camping trip. His solution for everything is go to camp. I know what'll happen to me. Just when I get old enough where I won't have to go anymore, I'll get drafted into the infantry.
So obviously, your memories stay with you, and they come out in your art. So, but I remember him saying to me, I've got this great story going, and I couldn't figure out how to end it. And then I finally came to the conclusion, or came to a solution, I suppose.
Right. Well, before we get to the end of that story, though, there was, it's at camp when Charlie Brown is wearing the sack over his head that he becomes popular.
Yes.
And it's,
And he became a leader.
right. And that is such a strange thing for us to see Charlie Brown do, because that's not his nature. But creatively, that had to have been fun for Schulz to be able to let him.
Well, I'm sure it was fun to have the situations go along and have other people call him Mr. Sack, which is really stupid when you look at it. But then he was stuck. He didn't know what to do.
Right, and absolutely, because Charlie Brown here, he's writing home, dear Mom and Dad, guess what? I've been elected camp president. Mr. Sack, excuse me, but do you think I should sign up for nature hike or swimming? Swimming, definitely. Nature hikes are great, but learning to swim is a must. Thank you, Mr. Sack. You sure are smart.
Life here in camp is wonderful.
So when people pay attention to you, suddenly you like the thing you hated.
Right. Yeah. It's but we point to this, and you mentioned earlier his experience in the Army. That for Sparky, he had a chance to maybe not quite be Mr. Sack, but it took him out of his everyday world and put him somewhere new, and then people saw him differently.
He could be somebody different because nobody knew what a loser he was.
Oh.
Right. So we find that in stories, that we get to experience these things in different ways. Dave, have you had an experience like this where the story opens up and it brings out something else in someone.
Well, that's the everyday.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of being able to create a world, from scratch. But I just have to say, I love this storyline because it's so surreal.
Yeah.
And starting with that, we saw the original upstairs, or a good reproduction of it. But that was what hooked me on Schulz from the beginning. It was like the humor and stuff, sure, but the surreality and the breaking of the fourth wall and that sort of experimentation with it was always way beyond the constraints of what was mostly going on with comics. And it felt to me like the same reason I later liked Monty Python, and I liked surreal narratives that acknowledge the form, acknowledge the constraints, went beyond them, and also sort of he was really unafraid to go into dreams and sort of obviously all the existential motifs that he was known for, and you always felt like there was something very different happening there, rather than sort of the kind of constrained tap dancing of a lot of comic strips, which is like, going to make you smile, here's where it'll gag. But this was like really different and soulful and melancholy and a lot of times just outright depressed, you know what I mean? Which is like something that you would not expect from a 3 or 4 panel thing that with ostensibly cheerful little kids. But the shape of, I was attracted to his drawing first because I wanted to be a cartoonist, and he was the best.
Yeah.
He was the best, he was the most facile artist. He was the best pure cartoonist, I think, of the 20th century for sure. And every one of these panels is perfect. And I'm just looking at this, they're like, how nobody could draw that paper bag better. No. The proportions are exactly right, they're so pleasing. And the same way that you see studies about, certain, Japanese animation, and cartoons will have certain proportions of the heads to the eyes to the bodies and everything. So he's observing all of that, but he's doing it intuitively without any kind of study or conscious ratios or whatever. But that pleasingness and the kind of cuteness of the drawings belies these like really dark and melancholy themes that are right under the surface. So I was just restudying, his work and in anticipation of this, and just trying to figure out how he struck that balance. And I don't know if anyone's done it, certainly not before him.
Yeah.
Because you were saying, can you remind us that in the first couple of years of the strip, it was not a sure thing, and people were talking about pulling it?
Absolutely. It was, Peanuts launched in 7 newspapers.
Yeah.
A couple of them were big papers, but it was just 7 papers.
New York paper, Chicago.
Chicago Tribune was one. And so he, even into the mid-50s, it was really, who knows what's going to happen here.
It was weird.
It was a weird
Really
strip.
weird
It was a weird strip. It was drawn.
We think of it as this universal thing that's really weird, right? Do you all recognize how strange it is now?
In the 50s, we have a lot more of the adventure strips, densely drawn and very, realistically portrayed people, and even the gag-a-day stuff, it didn't fit that mold either. So people were just like, what is this supposed to be? What's this guy trying to pull here? And but eventually it found its audience, and it found where it needed to be.
But it was on college campuses that I think it took off.
Definitely.
That was news to me today. That it was like a college thing first, which is also like completely strange to think about, that it was a college, like cult insider, hippie, or whatever, kind of in the know, hep cat kind of, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, in the time of like wearing berets and smoking clove cigarettes and watching and reading Peanuts, right? What?
The 50s, not the 60s.
Yeah.
The 50s were hep cat times, weren't they? You didn't get that wrong,
Not on
huh?
my call.
Is that right?
So Charlie Brown has gone away to camp, and he's finally taken that bag off his head, and this kid who you never see again, Mr. Sack, what are you doing up so early? Oh, I'm going to go watch the sunrise. If it's the sun, I'll know I'm cured. If it's a baseball, I'm still in trouble. He didn't have a sack over his head? He's our camp president? So great. These random kids from camp. No, here we have just an all-time great. So Charlie Brown goes out to go watch the sun. It's getting light, the sun is coming up. I can't look, I can't stand the suspense, but I have to look. I have to know, will I see the sun or will I see a baseball? What will I see? And it's Alfred Newman from magazine. What inquiry.
Good grief.
Well, now that plays right into the college kids.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, 1973, very surreal, you know, so strange.
Does he have to get approval from Mad Magazine?
He did not, you know. He and Mad had, through the early 70s especially, they were, he was writing letters into them and they were spoofing him and he had a lot of fun with them. So I'm sure it was fine. Yeah, one of my favorite little anecdotes about that was he wrote into them one time because they were making fun of him and saying, oh, he's so commercial and, you know, he's made all this money and faulting him for that. And he says, you know, what's great about being so rich is I can have a lifetime subscription to Mad Magazine and cancel it. And I love that. So, okay, so now Dave, now when you're thinking about stories, I mean, I know you're thinking about things all the time. But what do you know? What draws you into a particular topic?
It depends. I mean, I do, you know, I was trained as a journalist, really, and so I wake up in the morning, like on a day like today, thanks for being here, and we're all, or I think some of us would also like to be out in the street today, and so a lot of times, yeah, well, we're there in spirit, you know, we bought a ticket and then they scheduled this thing and here we are. And so I scheduled that, you know, King's thing, but the last one I thought was really inspiring and I think this will be even better. And I read, just a side note, sorry, but European friends will say like, well, why are you doing these once every 4 months? Like you stay in the streets until there's change, right? And so like that's what we haven't figured out as Americans. Is like, keep it going until you see the change that you wish.
It's the yellow jackets that they wear.
Well, those guys turned out a little weird. They had some strange beliefs, but you know, in general, whether it's the Arab Spring or elsewhere, you stay until you see the change you want to see. But where were we? Where did we start?
Well, we're talking about you know, stories and finding like what attracts you into a story, but also I'm curious about, do you need to see the end of the story going into it and knowing you're going to focus on it?
I do.
Yeah.
I can't really, like if I'm writing a novel, I know where it ends before I can really get into writing it. 9 times out of 10, because otherwise I for some reason the ending is very pleasing to me, and to figure out like where this will end up, and it gives me a roadmap, and I know where I'm going to end up. So that I do have this fear, because after I wrote my first book, I wrote like a very long book that I threw away that just didn't work, and so I'm forever scarred by like a year and a half of, you know, verbiage that went nowhere because I didn't have a roadmap for it. And so since then, I'm always kind of more likely to have a sense of where it goes in general, major beats, and then within that you find all of the best stuff is just discovered while I'm typing. I mean, like I was writing something new yesterday where I'm just still finding these characters, and they start, and this is going to sound really corny and fake, right? But like, the characters do start speaking on their own, and you're typing, you're catching up to what they're saying, because they're already speaking, you're transcribing it. And when a character, I have this family of 5, and I already know they're already bantering with each other, and in a way that I'm really just recording what I'm already hearing them say in a room. And so that's when it's really fun. You don't know that day. You know, maybe it's like having 5 actors with a general scene, and then they get on stage and then they improvise it. So these characters sort of become that way, and that's when it's most fun. The initial creation is like an unfettered joy, and then the editing is an unmitigated slog. And so it's just like, right now I'm in that, like, just being able to put it all down, even though half of it will end up being cut or heavily revised. But I'm in that moment where I really don't know what will happen in a given scene, but I know generally where they're all going.
Yeah.
You know.
But I think that's not so different from Sparky, who
No.
said, if a character doesn't give me ideas, they go. They don't stay.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so the character is, himself, herself has to generate ideas for him, like Lucy's mad all the time and attacking people. That gives you tons of ideas.
How often did you talk through stories? Did you ever say, like, I'm stuck on this, or?
No, I don't think that I was creative or smart enough to have those discussions.
Not like, does this work, or is this anything? Did you?
Well, I remember once saying, and I thought this is very revealing. I went in and I looked at a strip that was sitting on his desk and said, oh, that's funny. And he said, oh, I'm glad you like it, because I never know. And that's true. The cartoonist doesn't know if it's funny. It's funny to him.
Yeah.
But it isn't until 8 weeks later someone said, oh, I like so-and-so peanuts today, I like blah blah, and by that time it's like the story has gone on.
Right. And this is pre-internet days, so you wouldn't have, you'd wait until the mail would come 8 weeks later, because what's the gap between when he would finish 8 weeks?
Yeah. 8 and 10 weeks, so.
So if you're, I don't read anything on the internet. I'm not online really much, but I read letters from people.
Yeah.
So the only sense I have if anything works is if somebody comes up at a reading and says, I like blank, or if they write a letter.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the same way. It's like a year and a half later, I was like, oh, that worked, So write letters if you think of it. It means a lot to us.
Definitely.
And it's really just the one reader.
Yes.
One person that gets it the way you intended, that's all that matters. Then you just go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's never a quorum or it's really one person. You got it? Like, I wrote this book called The Every that, like, it came out kind of after The Circle. It's a lot of tech dystopia. I don't read reviews. I don't talk to anybody about, So outside of my early readers, like my wife who's a novelist and the editor, I didn't hear anything. And it was like, honestly, 3 years later, at like a benefit for the Boston Library, that a young woman came up to me and she'd read it, and she understood it, and she cited things and she got jokes that I intended people to get. And I was like, well, it was 3 years late, but somebody understood it, and now I can move through the world. Like, it's really that, sometimes isolated, and it is a kind of you are kind of on
When
your
you
own.
work alone.
Yeah. But the only readers that really matter are those amateur readers, who are just reading for pleasure. Like reading reviews and stuff has no relevance.